My phone buzzed. It was Annie. Her voice shook with anxiety, making my stomach tighten. Without wasting a second, I rushed to her place, desperate to find out what was wrong. What she told me left me utterly speechless. She was pregnant and had no idea what to do next. We'd only been together for a few months, and the thought of marriage, let alone fatherhood, was the last thing on my mind. But despite my hesitation, we got married anyway. If I'm being completely honest, I wasn't exactly thrilled about it. I still felt like there was so much I wanted to experience before settling down. As time went on, things between us deteriorated quickly. Annie's behavior started to raise red flags, so I decided to keep a close eye on her. Whenever she claimed she had a doctor's appointment, I discreetly followed her. Not once did she actually go. She'd always end up at some cafe or restaurant, laughing and chatting with friends instead. When I confided in my dad about the situation, he made me see the truth. I wasn't just some average guy. I was attractive, financially stable, and had no shortage of women interested in me. It became clear that Annie had manipulated me into marriage. After a few more weeks of keeping tabs on her, everything clicked into place. I wasted no time filing for divorce. From that moment on, I vowed to be much more careful about the women I let into my life. I even went as far as downplaying my wealth, hoping to meet someone who genuinely cared for me, not my bank account. I spent years searching, and by the time I was 28, I met Natalie. She was 20, completely unaware of who I was or what I did for a living, which was exactly what I wanted. Her innocence and lack of interest in material things drew me in, so I pursued her relentlessly. Over time, we fell deeply for each other, and eventually, I popped the question. To my surprise, she turned me down, saying she was too young to settle down. Her resistance only fueled my determination. I went above and beyond to prove my commitment, and before I knew it, I became obsessed with the idea of making her my wife. I started dropping hints about having kids, hoping she'd get pregnant. I know how awful that sounds, but at the time it felt like my only option. A few months later, it actually happened. Natalie was overwhelmed. She had always envisioned waiting at least 5 more years before starting a family. But this time, she agreed to marry me. I introduced her to my father and the rest of my family, and they adored her. They assured me she was the perfect match, and I wholeheartedly believed it. By then, I had bought my own house, so we no longer had to move from rental to rental. Since I had spent so long hiding my wealth in past relationships, I finally felt comfortable spoiling her without hesitation. I showered her with affection, gifts, and all the attention she could ever want, both before and after our daughter Angela was born. Angela became our world, and she resembled me so much that I never once doubted she was mine. When she turned 3, Natalie decided to return to work, and that's when everything shifted. Suddenly, she changed. She began dressing in more revealing outfits, wearing bold makeup, and going out with her friends far more often. She even joined a gym, sculpting her body into the best shape of her life. Motherhood had enhanced her beauty. Her curves were even more pronounced, and despite having breastfed, she still maintained her stunning figure. Everything about her felt different, even in the bedroom. She constantly claimed she was exhausted, feeling down, or just not in the mood. And whenever I asked questions, her responses started sounding too polished, almost rehearsed. Something wasn't right, so I took matters into my own hands. I kept a close watch on her, determined to uncover the truth. But after a month of careful observation, I still had nothing solid to prove she was being unfaithful. The only suspicious change was that she suddenly locked her phone with a password and never let it out of her sight. Even in the bathroom or the shower, it was always with her. Whenever I asked who kept texting her, she'd brush it off, saying it was her mom, dad, or someone unimportant. And anytime I requested to see her messages, she'd find an excuse to keep me from looking. That only made me more determined to get to the bottom of it. Then my opportunity arrived. A friend invited us to a wedding, and Natalie drank way too much that night. So much that she could barely remember her own name. She was an absolute mess, to the point where I had to carry her out of there while she slurred a bunch of nonsense on the way home. After we got back, she took a shower, and we climbed into bed. Out of nowhere, she started pouring her heart out, telling me how much she loved me, how I was an amazing husband and father. I always thought I did a decent job, but then she said something that sent a chill down my spine. She claimed she didn't deserve a man like me. I pressed her to explain, but in her drunken state, she was barely coherent. Half the night was spent taking care of her as she got sick over and over. By 2 a.m., she finally passed out, and that's when I saw my chance. I grabbed her phone. What I discovered left me speechless. Over 100 messages from someone named Mariah, filled with intimate details and love declarations. In that instant, the truth smacked me in the face. Natalie had been cheating on me. Waking her up in that condition would have been pointless, so I decided to wait until morning. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, counting down the hours. As I scrolled through all 113 texts, the full picture came together. This affair had been going on for 2 months. They had even met up in my own home while I was out of town. Suddenly, everything made sense. That was exactly when Natalie's behavior had shifted. It also explained why she had been so eager for me and our daughter to take little trips to visit family. A storm of emotions raged inside me. Pain, betrayal, anger. Every cherished memory we had together was now tainted, and the realization crushed me. How had it come to this? Morning arrived, and Natalie, groggy, asked for water. Despite everything, I wasn't cruel. I helped her out. But then I confronted her about Mariah. The look on her face said it all. She panicked, blurting out something about deleting everything. My confusion quickly turned to fury. Seeing my expression shift, she scrambled to convince me I was misunderstanding. But in the end, she couldn't keep up the lie. She admitted to the affair. There was no decision to make. I kicked her out of my house. It was agonizing, but I forced myself to file for divorce. My daughter stayed with me since Natalie had nowhere stable to raise a child. The road to healing was long. I spent months regretting how much trust one had placed in her. My dad eventually stepped in, determined to pull me out of my misery. He treated my daughter and me to a luxurious vacation at a tropical resort. And for the first time in a long while, I felt like I could breathe again. The sun, the ocean, the warm breeze. It was exactly what we needed. That trip wasn't just a getaway. It marked the beginning of a brand new chapter. A fresh start for me and my little girl. So guys, if you all liked today's story, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon. Thank you for watching.